Good morning and happy Tuesday, everyone. My name is Nick Marro here with Occupy Fantasy. As always, I'm here to help you break down tonight's NBA DFS main slates on both DraftKings and FanDuel. You can find me on Twitter at Nick Marro DFS. Please like the video. Also, subscribe to the channel. It helps us get more free content like this out to you on a regular basis. Also, if you're not already a member of Occupy Fantasy, check the links in the description below. As a member, you get access to the model you see here, which features ownership percentages. You can sort by value for both sites, OF index, which will show you the best raw point plays. We also have a single lineup builder, multi lineup builder, private Discord server full of DFS pros to help you improve your game. There's also a 30-minute window leading up to each slate's lock where you could ask your slate and lineup specific questions. All right, so without further ado, let's get into it here. We got a nice 6 game slate tonight, kind of the perfect size, in my opinion. Really like these types of slates in the mid range. Starting a little bit later today, I wanted to get the 11:30 Eastern injury report, which we did. We have pretty much all the news we need, which is rare and good to see. I think there's only one team on a back-to-back, and that is the Pelicans. So that's the one spot we kind of have to keep an eye on, but things should be pretty standard for them, I imagine. So let's get into the breakdown. I like to go through game by game, team by team. I'm going to talk through these spots, let you know which injury news you need to keep an eye on. I also have a DraftKings and FanDuel window open. I will slowly start to build lineups throughout the video, kind of just show you my favorite plays. And then at the end, we'll kind of summarize everything. So we're going game by game in the order of the official NBA injury report. First game on the slate, we have the Celtics at the Wizards. Celtics are an 11.5 point favorite on the road. We're looking at a 223.5 point game total here. Jaylen Brown is available. Still wearing that face mask, I think. Peyton Pritchard's back. He's probable. No real other significant injury news for Boston here. So Jalen's coming off a massive game, but Tatum rested that one. With both these guys in, they're both solid, but a little bit overpriced, especially Jaylen Brown now pushing 10K on DK. Obviously, he has a very high ceiling, but that ceiling is much, much higher when Tatum is out of the lineup. So it's going to be really tough for me to want to click him tonight. If I am going to either of these Celtics, it's probably Tatum, but he does feel a little bit overpriced, especially on FanDuel where he's 11K flat. But all that being said, these are going to be low on plays with serious upside, so I don't mind them in tournaments. Marcus Smart's fine. Derek White, Malcolm Brogdon, all okay in that backcourt. Brogdon coming off the bench in all likelihood. None of those guys are really jumping off the page. I do like the 5,700 price tag on Smart on DK, but it's tough for me to want to call him a priority. We have some really good guard value tonight. Williams is back and healthy, which cuts into Horford's upside. I mean, Robert Williams obviously has a high ceiling. 4,600 on DK, decent price, don't mind it. The minutes have been pretty inconsistent with him, though. So, in summary, on Boston, really, there's nothing here I'm prioritizing. Wouldn't mind getting to some Tatum, but really, at his price, that's kind of a tough ask on this slate. Only 6 games. We have some value, but not enough for me to really want to prioritize him. All right, now we can move over to the Washington side of things. Bradley Beal is still out, as is Kyle Kuzma. Monte Morris is questionable, as is Daniel Gafford. So we got a lot of injury news to kind of parse through here. So whenever we have both Beal and Kuzma out, Porzingis becomes extremely appealing. There is some minor blowout risk here, given the wide spread. We're looking at 11.5 points. If the game is in Washington, maybe they can keep it competitive. And if they do, you have to imagine Porzingis is the major reason for that. So at 9,300 on DK, 94 over on FanDuel, I do think he's a really strong play here. Denny Avila, he's been excellent with both Kuzma and Beal out of the lineup. He should continue to start here and see very high usage. Per rate slash percentage. But yeah, 6,500 on DK, 6,800 over on FanDuel. A little bit pricier than we're used to paying for him, but I do think he's fine here. Corey Kispert probably gets a start as well. Don't mind him. He's just a little bit too scoring dependent for my taste. Big pieces of news though. If Gafford's out, I think it's most likely we see Porzingis just play center. Wouldn't shock me to see someone like Johnny Davis get the nod, but I think it's more likely we just see Porzingis slide down to the 5 if Gafford's out. If Gafford's in, he's okay as value. Wouldn't really be a priority for me though. And then Monte Morris, if he's out and we see Delon Wright get the start, Wright's going to become very appealing as a value play. If we see Goodwin get the start over him, he's another very appealing value play again. That is if Monte Morris is out here. As it stands, I think he probably plays, but it's another situation we're going to have to wait and see on. So yeah, I do like some pieces here for Washington. I'm not sure I'm going to call any of them priorities just yet. I could see penciling in maybe Porzingis or Denny on either site, but for now I'm just going to leave those spots blank because there is a wide spread. Boston is a tough matchup, and they are all a little bit priced up, but definitely going to look even better if we get Morris out as far as usage goes for Avidan Porzingis. And then again, if Porzingis is playing center, that's certainly going to increase his rebounding potential. So that would boost his upside a bit here as well. So maybe a bit less of a competitive game, but as far as ceilings go, more players out, good for the starters here in Washington. But for now, I'm just going to not really force anything from that first game. The other luxury too is it's the only 7 o'clock game, so if we're waiting on news in some of these other spots, you could just kind of X that one out, and then just kind of start your builds with the 7:30 games and on. So moving into the next game on the slate now, we have the Hawks hosting the Cavs. Just 1 point favorites at home are the Atlanta Hawks. Jalen Johnson's out. There is no other significant injury news for Atlanta. So Murray and Trey both look fine here. Not going to prioritize either. They're about priced where they should be. I will say Murray does feel a little bit too cheap over on DK at 7,600. Really just a bit too cheap regardless of the matchup, but I will say the matchup with Cleveland's about as bad as it gets. Very slow team, very tough defense. So yeah, we're looking at what, a 237.5 point game total, though. That is very surprising to me for a Cleveland Cavaliers game. Um, so yeah, maybe I'm weighing that a little bit too heavily. To me, personally, I'd probably bet the under here. I'm a little bit hesitant to rush to some of these Hawks pieces as they are healthy and priced where they should be in a tough matchup with Cleveland. But if you got a total pushing 240, that's kind of null and void. You don't really have to worry about it. So definitely could see getting to some Murray over on DK. Trey Young's always a fine tournament play. Clint Capella, pretty inconsistent, but at 6K flat over on DK, that's an appealing price to me. And Okongwu's been playing all those backup center minutes for Capella. He's cheap over on DK at 4,600. I think you can go to either of these centers. Certainly don't play them in the same lineup on DK where that's possible, but wouldn't shock me to see either of these guys do well here. DeAndre Hunter is fine as a secondary option. Collins, Bogdanovich. These are all plays we tend to like more when someone's ruled out, but with this team completely healthy, which has been a rarity for them this season, it's really tough for me to want to prioritize anything from Atlanta. Over on the Cleveland Cavaliers side, we got some news to parse through. We got Jared Allen questionable. Raul Neto is out. Isaac Okoro is questionable. Dean Wade is doubtful. So yeah, I mean, it is significant. If Allen's out here, it's going to be a boost in usage to Mobley specifically. Mobley's also going to be playing more around that five. You should see increased rebounding potential would boost his upside. Garland and Mitchell both look good here. They're both paced up considerably. Really like the price on Garland at just 7,400 over on DK. I'm actually going to go ahead and pencil him in now as kind of our first core option as we talk through this slate. That just feels too cheap for a major pace up spot. Again, this game does have a near 240 point total, which is a rarity for Cleveland Cavaliers games. Donovan Mitchell, 8,600, another price I like a lot. Obviously, Mitchell is the higher ceiling, but for the 1K savings, maybe you go to Garland. I think you go one or the other. I mean, Mitchell, just kind of zooming into what he's been doing lately, hasn't really been hitting value in that mid to 8K to 9K range. And then, yeah, I think Garland's just a little bit more consistent as far as hitting and exceeding value goes. But in tournaments, you're definitely getting more upside from Mitchell. So I'd probably favor Mitchell there. In single entry and cash, I'd probably favor Garland. But yeah, I mean, if we get Okoro out and Raul Neto is out, that could be a boost in minutes for one Ricky Rubio. Very risky as a value play, even when he's like the only guard there. We don't always see extended minutes. They are pretty healthy in that backcourt. But maybe he gets more minutes as some of these wing players have to play more guard with the second and third units. So I'm not really all that interested in Rubio, but as a punt, he does make some sense. But Mobley really is the play I'm most interested in, but that is if Jared Allen's out of the lineup. So I do like all the Cleveland starters here. We're going to have to keep it on that starting lineup. Maybe if Okoro's out, we see Karis LeVert slide in. Seems more likely it would be someone like Windler or Osman, though. So, situation to keep an eye on. If Levert starts on DK at 4,900, I do have some interest. But for now, I'm just interested in the guards, Garland, Mitchell, more so on DK. Um, and then Mobley, especially if Jared Allen's out. If Allen's in, you could play him. Um, but yeah, really good matchup here for Cleveland, paced up against Atlanta, whose defense has been a bit of a disappointment this season. All right, we got another 7:30 game here now. We get the Heat at the Raptors. The Raptors are 3.5 point favorites at home. One of the reasons I'm starting a bit later today is I wanted to know the news on Jimmy Butler. He was upgraded to probable. There's still a lot of people online who think he's going to be ruled out tonight. To me, I think he plays. I don't see why, if they upgrade him, that he'd suddenly be ruled out. But again, it is Jimmy Butler. It is the Miami Heat. They tend to mess around with these injury reports more than other teams. But if Butler's in, I think you could still go to Bam on both sites. A little bit too cheap, 7,500 on DK, 8,100 over on FanDuel. 8,700 for Butler on DK, 98 on FanDuel. Probably wouldn't play him at all on FanDuel. The DK price is okay though. But let's say Butler's out, then both Hero and Bam are going to look excellent here. Max Strus has had some massive games, very scoring dependent guard, high ceiling but a low floor. I could see mixing him in as the last man in. Kyle Lowry, don't care whether he plays or not. I have no interest. That does take Gabe Vincent out of consideration, though. If you're desperate for value, you could go to Kevin Love. He's barely been touching 25 minutes per night, though, so you're really going to need his shot to be falling if he is going to exceed value. But let's say these guys are healthy. Let's say Butler's in. The one play I really like would be Bam, then maybe some Strus in tournaments. If Butler's out, that would also make me really interested in Tyler Hero. If Butler's in, I don't mind him on DK. Really can't pay near 10K for him over on FanDuel though. So decent spot for Miami here, but not one where we're really prioritizing anything. All right, over on the Toronto side of things, we have Will Barton doubtful. Gary Trent is questionable. Otto Porter is out. So with Trent out, that should create a little bit more usage for the other starters. Or even if Trent comes off the bench, it's going to create more usage for the starters as they do tend to stagger his minutes with the other starting Raptors. So Barnes, Siakam, OG, and Van Fleet are all going to look decent here. Don't mind some Jakob Poeltl. A lot of good center plays on the slate, though. I really don't see him as a priority. Chris Boucher, he's had some good games lately, but that has been with Precious Achua out of the lineup. It sounds like Precious is back and healthy now, so probably won't get to him. But yeah, I mean, Scotty Barnes, 6,200 on DK does feel a bit too cheap. I think if Trent is out, that would be kind of a borderline core play for me. Siakam finally playing better basketball, but now he's priced up again over 9K, so he's tough for me to prioritize. Don't mind OG. Again, Van Fleet looks good, but he's priced up. So lots of kind of like for Toronto, but really nothing I love. Nothing I'm prioritizing, that's for sure. All right, so now we can move into this 8 o'clock window. A few more interesting games. Ah, Charlotte, where are you? So the Thunder are hosting the Hornets here. Thunder are 10.5 point favorites at home. Looking at a 230 point game total. We can start on the Charlotte side of the ball. So I'm a little bit surprised we have their injury report, but we do. So LaMelo Ball's out. Gordon Hayward's going to be doubtful. Kelly Oubre is questionable. Terry Rozier is out, and Cody Martin is out as well. It sounds like Mark Williams. We're seeing a ton of ownership going to Nick Richards right now, and I'm a little bit surprised because Mark Williams is not on the official injury report. I know they said that they were going to play these guys like every other day, so I'm going to just take a look here. He will sit out Tuesday's game against the Thunder. This news came out right after I started the video, so that explains it, and that shows you guys how quickly the Occupy model updates. I mean, I have the 11:30 injury report. I didn't have this news, but we already have it in the model here. So with Williams out, Nick Richards looks like a great center play. I think if you're looking for value at the center spot, it's going to be tough to do better than Richards here. Decent matchup. OKC's front court isn't that great defensively. He should be able to stay on the floor for much of this game, and even if the game does get a little bit out of hand, we are seeing something similar to a blowout. It wouldn't shock me if they just let Richards run with this team. Obviously, Charlotte really isn't playing for much right now other than getting some of these guys some experience. But yeah, with Hayward doubtful and Rozier out. Kelly Oubre looks excellent here. I don't mind Dennis Smith Jr., but the price is just a little bit too heavy for me now. 6,500 on FanDuel, certainly easier to stomach than the 7K tag over on DK. But I do like Oubre a lot over on DraftKings. So maybe I go ahead, I put Oubre on the DraftKings build. We go ahead and we put Smith over on the FanDuel build. There is some small blowout risk here, but I think Charlotte should be able to keep this game at least relatively competitive. OKC's been playing good ball, but we'll get into them next. It looks like SGA is questionable tonight, and if he's out, this should be a pretty competitive game. Svi Mykhailiuk's been getting starter minutes, very cheap. Again, another scoring dependent guard. He's a very high ceiling but a low floor. I think at 4,200 on FanDuel, you can add him in. A little bit riskier than I generally like to include for a core play. But yeah, on a slate kind of lacking value, only 6 games, I don't mind him. So yeah, just to kind of recap here, Mark Williams is out. We didn't have that news, but now we do, and the model's already reflecting that. So we could go to Nick Richards on both sites. Really like Kelly Oubre. I expect him to lead this team in usage. Dennis Smith Jr. is fine, just a little bit overpriced now. And then PJ Washington, I forgot to talk about. He's been seeing a major boost in his usage. With some of these others out, he's very inconsistent for a 7K player, but we know he has enough upside to justify that tag. So I don't mind PJ in tournaments. But for me, the core play here is Richards, then probably Oubre over on DK, and then Smith on FanDuel reluctantly. I could see maybe getting away from him. He just hasn't been shooting the ball as much as we'd like to see. So um, I'm actually going to do that now. I know I penciled them in. I'll leave Svi in for the value. But I don't think I want that whole Charlotte backcourt. Over on the Thunder side of things now, SGA is questionable. Obviously, this is massive news. If he's in, he's a solid play on both sites. If he's out, then we can go to Josh Giddey and Jalen Williams. That's Jelen Williams on both sites, as they would have major boosts in their usage rates. Isaiah Joe could get the nod at point guard in the absence of SGA. He could also slide in and play the two. So if Isaiah Joe is starting, scoring dependent guard, I know it sounds redundant, but there's a lot of them on this slate. But if his shots are falling, he takes a lot of threes. He could be a nice little value piece as well. So if SGA's in, he's probably the one Thunder player I'm very interested in. I wouldn't mind Jalen Williams on either side. He's just been excellent. Honestly, should be in the conversation for Rookie of the Year. I know it's Banchero's to lose right now, but Williams has been awesome. But yeah, Giddy's fine as well. So those are the 3 plays I'm really interested in. You could also go to Ludor and Isaiah Joe if SGA is out, but with SGA in, I don't think I really want much of either of them. But yeah, maybe so. Jalen Williams only 6,700 on DK. I do like that price a lot. Um, maybe we go ahead and add him as well, especially if we're playing multiple Charlotte pieces. It kind of works as a correlation play. Um, on FanDuel, do we want to do it here as well? I mean, I like this much more if SGA's out, but he's just been so good lately. I kind of don't mind. Yeah, we see some 40-point games in there, a couple 20s, which isn't great to see. But yeah, I mean, when he's shooting, the ball has been going in. He's just been excellent, and the minutes are certainly there for him as well. So I'll leave him over on DK at 6,700. If SGA's out, he is a core play for me on both sites, though. I think Giddy will be the more popular of the two. I definitely would want both in cash, but I actually think Williams is the better player, and you're probably going to get him at lower ownership. So keep that in mind. All right, moving into the next game on the slate now, one of the most important on the slate. We have the Grizzlies hosting the Magic. Grizzlies only 7-point favorites at home, looking at a 229-point game total here. I'll start on the Memphis side of things. So Steven Adams is still out. Brandon Clark is out. John Morant is doubtful. So that's the big piece of news here. Um, Zaire Williams is out as well. So yeah, with Ja out of the lineup, we are back to getting good value for Memphis. So when he was out for that extended period for that suspension, all these guys were priced up. Their prices are back down now. So we can look at Tyus Jones, we can look at Desmond Bain, even Jaren Jackson is a potential core option for me. Bain and Jones are the 2 core plays. I'm going to go ahead and add them on both sites. I really like Bain here, and I'm actually going to pull Williams. I put the wrong Williams there. Um, but yeah, Jalen Jelen if SGA is out is a core play. So just keep that in mind. And then Tyus Jones, definitely one of the best plays on the slate with John Morant out of the lineup. So go ahead and add Tyus. Come on, then Bain. Nice. So yeah, really like both those guys. No surprise there. Xavier Tillman still getting a lot of love on FanDuel. Where you could play him at power forward. Clark and Adams are both out again, so he obviously has upside. He just hasn't been great lately. So that's kind of reflected in the ownership. Don't mind him in tournaments though. Jaren Jackson, very high ceiling, but he's also pretty expensive. Don't mind him here. And then Dylan Brooks, everyone's favorite player. Very high ceiling, but also very low floor with Ja out of the lineup. If his shot's not falling, he could get you a single digit. But if it is, I mean, he could 6, 7x his salary pretty easily, so I don't mind Brooks. I will just add as a caveat, if David Roddy starts, you could use him as a punt. He would be pretty risky here, but we have seen some big games out of him when he does get those starter minutes. So for now, Jones and Baines are Jones and Bain, not Baines, are the priorities. I also like Jackson. Don't mind Tillman on FanDuel. Aldama's okay. Dylan Brooks looks fine, but he's kind of boomer bust. And then if Roddy starts, he's going to be interesting here as well. Moving over to the Orlando side of things, this is a very narrow injury report for them. Only Kevon Harris and Jonathan Isaac are on it. So this is a healthy team, kind of price where they should be. Really tough for me to want to prioritize anything here. I do like Paulo Banchero. He looks fine. Franz Wagner, Wendell Carter Jr., Markel Fultz, all decent plays, all kind of priced where they should be, though. Cole Anthony's price is up. He's been solid, but again, priced up, not as appealing. Don't mind Fultz on DK at 6,900. He's probably my favorite Magic player other than Paulo Banchero, who looks pretty good on both sites at a pretty thin forward position. So, like Banchero, don't mind Wagner, don't mind Carter. Like Fultz, better on DK, but he's good on both sides. And then Cole Anthony's fine here as well. But really, nothing I'm prioritizing. They are getting Jalen Suggs back, who is going to cut into some of that usage. So, tough for me to prioritize anything from Orlando. All right. So then after all those 8 o'clock games, we have a 2 hour window before the late game goes. So this is going to be a little bit tricky. We'll start with Golden State. Jordan Poole, Draymond Green are both probable. Still no Andrew Wiggins. So no real surprises here. Draymond looks fine. Poole's been really good lately. 5,900 on DK feels too cheap for him, so I like him over there. Kevon Looney, if he's starting at center, is definitely in play, but I don't know that I want to use that center spot up on someone like Looney, who tends to not have a very high ceiling when this team is healthy. Steph Curry, not a ton of great pay ups on the slate. I don't mind getting to him. Klay Thompson, obviously very scoring dependent, but a very high ceiling. I consider him to be a good tournament play. I really like Poole over on DK. If there's any warrior I'm probably going to get to aggressively, it's him over there. But yeah, this is just a healthy team price where they should be. It's tough to really prioritize anything. So then we can move over to the Pelican side of things. This is where it gets a little tricky. So the Pelicans are on a back to back. I'm going to go ahead and take a look and see if we're getting any injury news on DK. Sometimes they leak things before the official injury reports out. Not seeing any of that right now. So we're going to have to assume this team is healthy. If they're healthy, that means other than Zion's going to be out. We already know that though. Ingram and CJ both look good here. Ingram's been excellent. He'd be a priority play for me if I am looking to pay up for something in this late game. Gives you a little bit more flexibility if you need it, but I do like Ingram here. If Ingram were to be out, CJ would look excellent. Again, if CJ's out, obviously Ingram looks excellent. And then Joval has been seeing increased minutes lately. Pretty nice upside for him. I think he's played a few games consecutively where he's pushing 30 minutes, which is good to see. But with this being the second half of a back to back, yeah, 29 minutes last night. I think he should be good to go. If he were to be out, keep an eye on that starting lineup. We could see maybe someone like Willie Hernan Gomez, Larry Nance, or even Jackson Hayes slide in and become excellent value. But as things stand, we're going to have to assume that this Pelicans team is healthy. I like Joval. I like CJ. I really, really like Ingram. And then secondary options on the wing like Jones, Murphy, Marshall are all fine. Not going to call any of them priority plays, though. All right, so we're through the game by game. We can take kind of an overall look at the slate now. Obviously, Memphis is the spot we're looking first for value. I started kind of a build on FanDuel. I don't know that Svi's really a core play, but if we're lacking value, I think he makes some sense to get to more pay up options. Just taking a quick look here. Yeah, I mean, I'm a little bit concerned about the blowout, but I do like the price on Porzingis at 9,400. Maybe I pencil him in. Taking a look at small forward. I mentioned I really like Bencaro. Yeah, it's unfortunate that Bam doesn't have power forward eligibility anymore. I'd probably use him over Porzingis here. Feel pretty good about it. But let's just do this. Hopefully the Celtics game stays relatively close. I'll go Denny Porzingis. Leaves you around 7K per player. You could probably get Jalen Williams in there. Nice little start to the build over on FanDuel. I don't even know that we need to add anything on DK. I already got Garland, Oubre, Richards, Bain, Jones. You're left with around 6K per player. No real surprises there. Memphis is the spot we're looking to for most value. Charlotte looks pretty good here as well, but their prices have mostly adjusted other than Nick Richards. Sorting by ownership, Jones, Richards, Oubre, Bain, Garland, Barnes, no surprises there. Again, if Gary Trent is out, Barnes does become even more appealing than he already is. I do like him a lot on DK at 6,200. Mitchell looks good here. Not sure I'd want to play him in the same lineup as Garland, but with a near 240 point total, it's going to be tough to get different on a 6 game slate. Maybe that's how you do it. Really like Jordan Poole's price over on DK as well, as we discussed. Svi, we got penciled in. DSJ, if you're going to play him, you probably play him on FanDuel at 6,500. I wish he'd take more shots. Um, But yeah, it's still a good play. I really like Bane, Jalen Williams. That's Jelen. He looks good on both sites. Obviously, much better if SGA sits. But yeah, for a 6 game slate, I think we got enough value to kind of build a decent, like high end balance build. You don't have to jam in like a bunch of studs. Obviously, most of those guys played last night. The Jokic's, the Embiid's, the Doncic's. None of those guys are on this slate, so you kind of go with more balance. You don't have to play too many value plays that you don't actually like. But once again, my name is Nick Marro. You can find me on Twitter at Nick Marro DFS. Check the links in the description below to sign up to Occupy Fantasy today. Like the video, subscribe to the channel. Let's have some fun tonight, everyone, and make some money. Take care and